All right, well, thank you all so much for being here. My name, as I said before, is Lara Hoke. I'm the minister or the pastor at First Church Unitarian in Littleton, and I live here in downtown Lowell. I'm going to be, I'm going to try to be your tech verger for the program, and I'm not as good as the person we have doing it for our church, but I'll do the best I can. I've learned a few things from him. I'm going to share a few things with you if you're less familiar with Zoom, although I know some of you are probably Zoom experts by now at this point in the pandemic. So when you're not speaking, it's generally a good rule of thumb to mute yourself, just so we have less unwanted noise. And the mute for most people is going to be in the lower left. It looks like a microphone, and you can click mute or unmute to speak. I am recording right now. You should know I'm recording onto my computer. Eventually I will edit this and put it on YouTube. So something to know, when you record a Zoom meeting onto your computer, it doesn't show your name. So whatever name you've put on your screen for yourself will not show in the recording. Your picture will show unless you click on stop video, which is right next to the mute button. It's lovely to see each other's faces though, so if you're not nervous about having your face appear as a little box on the screen, then it would be great if you're willing to keep your video on. But if that concerns you, you can turn your video off or, take a break from it. I understand how that goes if you need to get up for a second. You can, on your screen, for me, it's in my upper right, and I think it is for most people, there's something that says view, there's speaker view and gallery view. Gallery view, you can choose for yourself to go back and forth. Gallery view is when you're seeing, multiple faces, lots of faces on your screen in small boxes. Speaker view, when you click on that, you get a close-up of the person speaking. So if you're in speaker view, you're seeing me right now bigger than anybody else. Or gallery view just puts us all back into the smaller squares. So you can go back and forth except when we are sharing a screen. If I'm sharing a video or something like that, you'll be seeing that bigger. But you probably have an option, and I can't see it on mine, but usually when I share something on the screen, you'll have some sort of option sometimes to split the screen and still see some faces. So you can sort of play with that, and you shouldn't be hurting anything for anybody else. I think those are the basics of Zoom, and if questions come up as we go, we will try to help you out and have the best viewing experience we can. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Laura. Jeff, would you like to do our welcome, mission statement, and introduction?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lara, for kicking us off, and Imogene for everything you're doing. So let me give just a formal welcome to everybody to this year's annual Interfaith Gathering, which, of course, if you got the program, you can see the title is Migration and Metamorphosis, Sharing Stories of Change and Connection. So I'm Jeff Hillam. I come to you from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Lowell, and I'm the current president of GLILA, and we are just extremely happy for all of you who've called in, come to join us, and are grateful to everybody who has participated in putting it together. If you weren't on the committee or you've never been on one of these committees, you don't maybe understand the dozens and dozens of hours that went into putting it together. So thank you for everyone for doing that. Let me kick us off here with the mission statement for GLILA, the Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance. And it is this. The Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance, GLILA, is open to and welcomes leaders from diverse faiths within the Greater Lowell area. Our unity is based on our shared purpose of building relationships of mutual respect among the members, the communities they represent, and area faith communities. Our mission is to broaden our understanding of faith traditions and to support each other's work and faith journey. Our commitment is to be a united force for spiritual and moral leadership and cooperation within the Greater Lowell community, and to promote dialogue among the faith traditions. And part of executing on that mission is today's program. So I would like to, again, say thank you for everyone who has put this together, and I hope that everybody enjoys themselves. And from here, I'd like to cede the floor to Imogene to get us kicked off.
Thanks, Jeff. So my name is Imogene Stulken. I serve as a Protestant campus minister at UMass Lowell and also as past president of GLILA. And I'd like to add my words of welcome officially and formally to those you've already received. Thanks so much for joining us today. All of our efforts of planning wouldn't make sense if you didn't come, so thank you very much. As Jeff mentioned, the theme for this spring's annual Interfaith Gathering for Peace is Migration and Metamorphosis, sharing stories of change and connection. This theme was actually chosen for the spring gathering of 2020, but 2 weeks before the event was to take place, the pandemic hit in earnest and we had to cancel the program. But the planning team kept the theme for this year. We migrated from an in-person to a virtual gathering, and the program metamorphosed from including an interactive activity to offering resource links for you to try an activity at home. But why this theme? More people are on the move than at any time for several decades, many of them fleeing conflict or the effects of climate change. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees estimates that by mid-2020, there were more than 80 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. Almost 26 million of them are refugees who fled to another country. About half of the world's refugees are children under the age of 18 years old. The image of the monarch butterfly, and later on maybe we can show the program a little bit, or I can just hold it up, and Lara will probably be sharing more of this as we go along. But the image of the monarch butterfly was chosen because monarchs migrate in the spring and fall and go through a metamorphosis as part of their life cycle. Eastern monarchs may travel up to 3,000 miles in the fall to reach their winter destination. But like displaced persons and refugees, monarch butterflies are in danger. Climate change, loss of habitat, pesticides, natural enemies, all these are contributing to the decline in monarchs' numbers. On page 7 of the bulletin and program, and we can send this out to people later, or I think Lara's going to include the program with the YouTube video when we get that done. You can find links to resources on saving monarch butterflies. The hands-on activity we had planned for 2020 was to make coffee filter butterflies. On the bottom of page 6 of the program are several links to instructions for making your own. But thank you to Susan Taylor for preparing most of the butterflies you will see in this brief slideshow. Now let's turn to our discussion, panel discussion. So we have some storytellers and they're going to address the, I guess I could put my video back on. They're going to address the questions, how did your immigration, either from another country or from another part of this country, influence your faith journey? Did your faith change because of your experience? If so, how or in what way or ways? Frank, are you in danger of losing your computer? Do you need to go first?
I'm okay right at the moment. I don't know for how much longer, but I'm okay for the moment.
All right. Then Farook, let's start with you.
Yes, I hope, I'm going to give you a very brief discussion about where I come from and what happened to me when I got to the United States. And I hope I don't bore you too much. Anyway, I was born in India, Bombay, India, and long time ago. I came to the United States for education, higher education, in 1962. And I landed in Lowell. Although I was in Bombay, and it was a Muslim community that I was brought up in. So my background was strictly Islamic culture, Islamic education, things like that. So when I came to what was then a Lowell Technological Institute, small college, and not many foreigners really, you know, there were maybe about 200 students that came from abroad, and there were 3 Muslims, myself, one of them. One was from Iran, and the other one was also from India. But, you know, we had absolutely no contact with any other Muslim communities in the United States or Boston or anything. I did find out that there was a mosque in Quincy, Massachusetts. However, as our transportation resources go for students, there was no way to get to Quincy. So for first 2 years, we had to live with whatever it was there. And it was really a cultural shock because we are deep into a Western society now, primarily Christian. We had some contact with Jewish community also, so that was very good. Eventually, we found out that, you know, as I was going through undergraduate studies, and we found out that there was a Turkish community in Mosul that was had organized a mosque, and that's how we contacted them and started going to their mosque in Mosul. And occasionally we would visit also on Sundays. We could visit Quincy, Massachusetts, where the mosque was for prayers. But there was hardly any contact with any other Muslim communities whatsoever. So it was, we were just like typically a foreign land and a foreign culture, period, you know. Eventually, at the university, there was a society called Niem Society, which is a Christian society, and they offered us a room in their building so we could pray over there. And this is the beginning of the Islamic society, really, because we could now, every Friday, we could get together and pray. Again, our contacts with the outside world were, Muslim world, were really limited. Eventually, there were more and more Muslim students coming into the what was then University of Lowell, and then it became University of Massachusetts. So that, although I had graduated in 1966 and continue on, but I lived in Lowell, so I could see that the student population growing, and there was a Muslim Students Association was formed, and even the university had at that point appointed a professor to guide us into this. So, although I was on the outside, there were about 50 Muslim communities moved into in Lowell, and this way there we could had the Muslim community, their families, their children. We had to make sure that they get Sunday school, they get educated in Islamic culture, Islamic faith, and it started to grow. And that's when I really got involved in guiding the community into what became Islamic Society of Greater Lowell. And it went on. And now we have, as you know, we have a big mosque now. It can accommodate up to about 500 worshippers. This is in Chelmsford. But in addition to now, we have mosques in Nashua, in Haverhill, in, of course, Methuen, Worcester, and all the areas in Merrimack Valley. So it's a really different, and I get an opportunity to interact with all the Muslims in the area. And also there's a conferences happen, and it's a different society altogether now. So glad to have this type of a growth in the Islamic Muslim community.
Thank you very much, Farook. Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Any questions I can answer?
We can finish. Let's hold the questions until we get through the other passages,
Okay.
but be thinking of your questions if you have them. All right. In fact, there will be one question I see in the chat from Susan about whether you have an open house. So hold that for the moment. Let's get to the questions later. Niem, would you like to go next, please?
I could let Frank go first, just because he's talking about his time. Frank
Okay.
go first, and I go after.
Okay, Frank.
So, again, I'm Frank Baskin, and I didn't come here from Philadelphia to Eastern Mass to escape religious persecution or ethnic persecution. I came here because a job was offered to me, and so my wife Leslie and I moved up here. So a little bit of context. In Philadelphia, when I was a child, Philadelphia had one of the largest Jewish populations in the United States, so much so that all public schools closed on major Jewish holidays. So I was used to people knowing something about Judaism, knowing something about Jewish culture, and I was really used to that. So that's what I came up here with, knowing that. And so when I came here, I was really surprised that a number of different people would ask me, do Jews know anything about the Ten Commandments? And I said, Moses? Have they not heard of Moses? And I was asked, what do Jews do on Thanksgiving? I said, oh, I guess we're not citizens of the country, or at least their perception is that we're not citizens of the country. And there were other questions. For example, one person asked me, I know the Jews don't believe in the Holy Trinity. I know that. But I've never been able to figure out which Christian sect you do belong to. So evidently, we're Christians, but of a different variety of Christians. And I was asked, well, what do you think about, what did you think about Jesus? I said, well, along with Abraham and Moses and Mohammed, we consider Jesus to be a prophet. Oh. So the response was, well, what kind of religion is it? You don't believe in God. Is that a real religion? And so there were other questions and responses. And so I came to think I really have to think more about my Judaism as a religion, as a culture, and that's a part of me, and not assume that people know anything about me that's very real. That in some ways I have to be in a position of kind of teaching people and being able to respond to them in a fair and appropriate way, but not assume that they know as much as I had found out when I was growing up, and that I probably need to be more involved in my religion itself. So that's my little story. So I'll share that with you all, and I would hope we can all share that about each of ourselves and not assume that everyone knows about you and who you are.
Thank you very much, Frank. Niem, did you want to go next?
Okay. So hi, everyone. The question that, was asked, when I was thinking about it and go through it, I have more questions for myself after reading it. Why did I even immigrate here to America? Why did my family end up here? thinking back, I can remember that I hear bombing, I hear conflict, but I didn't know what it was all about, until I arrived here in America, that I learned, oh, there was a Vietnam War back then in 1955, before even I was born when it started, and then it go all the way, that Vietnam War went all the way to April 1975. So I learned that later when I was here in high school. And when I was growing up back then, all I think was like, oh, you hear bombing, you hear conflict. I could hear my parents talking about, oh, we gotta, if we need to get out of the country, we gotta escape the country, be prepared, And my grandma saying that, oh, packing our bag, make sure that we have a bag if we have to leave suddenly, that we are prepared. Those were the things that I hear about when I was growing up. And then in 1975 in Cambodia, it was really the civil unrest really started happening in April 1975. The civil unrest in Cambodia, one party against the other was taking over. And I remember that there was a colony called Lon Nol. He was backed by America, United States of America. That's all I remember. But I don't know the detail or anything like that. And then, when they was having fighting, they was having asked people to leave their home and their land. And so everything was completely changed. And then I remember they came to our house with their guns, tell us to leave the home. And then we leave. They told us to go to the rice field in other part of the province. I was in the Battambang province, close to the border, but they told us to go in further to the inland toward a different province, the border of Battambang, and the next province to Battambang. That's all I remember. And then they start to abolish. There was no education, abolish the religion. There was no Buddhist religion or practice at the temple. They closed out the temple, the mosque and everything. So abolish the religion, abolish education. Some of the monks was killed. Some of the intellectual and highly educated people was killed. And they was practicing. I didn't know that they was practicing Mao Zedong or Marxism until I came here to America. I learned about it. That what was they was wanted to do. They're having a communist concept by a group of people, and that's why they abolished religion and education. So that kind of like, oh, okay, that was what my family was escaping from. That's why my family immigrated and escaped the country, escaped prosecution, escaped civil unrest, and became a refugee. And then, it was a fear of conflict, persecutions, and it was really fear of losing our life. And also, we don't really have much of a living because there was no, and we wasn't using money. When you're tracing, I remember was that you use gold. I remember my parents had money and we was putting in a pillow, we risked our life to save that money, but that became a paperless, worthless paper. So, and then, after that, you don't carry and you just throw it out. I remember just after all that saving, right? And then it become worthless. And then only gold was worth something. So we use gold to trade for medicine or to trade for food or to trade for even sarong, the wrapping that the women use in Cambodia to get that. And that's how or why my family became a refugee. And then we later immigrated to America, and it was sponsored by the Catholic St. Anthony's Church. And so the question about, how was my faith journey? because my family was sponsored by the Catholic Church. So I do, follow the Ten Commandments. We participated in the Catholic church events, but I still practice Buddhism. So, and then my family really feel that, the religion you practice, if you're able to practice, really follow, whether the Buddhist precept, or if you're following the Ten Commandments of the Catholic Church, if you're able to do it, you can still do good deed, can still be a good person. But sometimes you can say you certain religion, but are you able to practice? Example, you shall not commit adultery. But, people 100%, are you able to do that? You shall not drink, but are you able to do that? You shall not steal, but are you really following, 100%? Or you kind of feel like, okay, well, it's just a little white lie, and then you do it. So those was, when I grew up, that's what my parent was saying is religions are good. It's a principle that give you guidance in life, but at the same time, are you able to practice it or not? And you could say you are this religion or that religion, but how are you practicing it as a human being? So my faith is, being a good person, being a part of productive community. And I think that's how I get involved with this GLILA. It is, my family is definitely diverse. We learn of different religions. So that's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Niem. Chris, Offerman?
Okay, thank you, Imogene. So I grew up in a small town in northern Germany, where basically two churches. The majority was Lutheran, and then there was a smaller Roman Catholic congregation. There might have been some other churches throughout the country, but we didn't really know about them. My family was Lutheran, meaning that everybody was baptized and confirmed and married and eventually buried in the Lutheran church. But other than that, we were more of the members in name only kind of members. We attended major holidays, but that was about it. After confirmation, I also basically stopped attending because after all, church was really only for old people. Young people didn't do that kind of thing. So that's what was going on there. When I came to the United States, I was utterly confused by the great variety of different churches, denominations, congregations. Everybody called themselves something that I had never heard about before. And I had no idea what they were and what they were doing and how they related to each other. And of course, there were so many other confusing things to get used to after I came here. Things that I thought I knew how they worked, but then coming here, I found out, no, that's not exactly how it works. So finding a Lutheran church, there was none nearby where I lived. And so finding a Lutheran church wasn't really something at the top of my list. It really only changed many years later after we came to Chelmsford. That was about 20 years ago. And even though I was still again confused, because a small town like Chelmsford, confused as compared to what I was used to. We had two churches and we knew what each other was doing. Now I come to Chelmsford, a town of about 30,000 people, with like 30 different churches. I was like, how can that be? But as luck will have it, there was Trinity Lutheran nearby, just up the road a bit, or a piece, as they say here. So we ended up joining there, not only for the proximity, but also because I felt at least I'll know what this church is all about. After all, I am Lutheran, I've been brought up that way, so there's something that I should know about. Except after I started attending, I found out that it was still quite different from the German Lutheran churches I was used to, where there's a pastor and a custodian and a music director, and that's about it. But the congregation itself doesn't really participate in any active way. Here, come to find out that it's all up to the congregation. They select the pastor, they hire the music director, they pretty much run everything, including the service. At one point, I actually counted how many people, and there was like more than 20 people on any given service that had a very active role in making things happen. This was totally new to me. So I kept up hiding in the back benches, just observing and being a member and looking at what was going on there for many, many years, until about, I want to say about 10 years ago or so, maybe a little less than that. Actually, Pastor Reiners, who is a member of GLILA, but I don't see that he is here today. He was our pastor at the time. He came up to me and asked me to become a worship assistant. I was totally surprised because I'd never taken any kind of active role in the church, and after all, worship assistant is up front all the time. So I actually asked him if I couldn't do some other kind of job first to kind of ease into this visibility. But no, he insisted he wanted me as a worship assistant. So, okay, I agreed. And then it turned out my very first time as worship assistant was Easter Sunday, where the church is packed, where everybody who never comes is there. And this was my first time. You can imagine, I was plenty nervous because if I made a mistake, everybody would see it and everybody would know about it. It went fairly well. Pastor Reiners guided me through the whole thing, kind of gave me little hand signals as to where to go, where to stay, and what to do. So we got through it. And I've done it many times since, so I'm feeling pretty familiar with it. And of course, now being much more visible in the congregation, I met more people, talked to more people. I was asked to take on some additional roles, which I did. And actually this year ended up joining the church council, which is not something I would have ever expected to happen to me. But here I am. I guess I'm now one of the old church ladies that is in the church council and directs how everything goes. So going back to how my faith has changed due to my immigration, being that much more involved in the running of a congregation has by needs also changed my faith in a way that it's become more of a personal thing. It's not something that the pastor does standing up there and I listen to. It's more an activity for me, and almost everyday activity, involvement, thought process at least. So I'm definitely no longer a Lutheran in name only. I'm an active member of a congregation. I now, as a council member, have additional responsibilities to make decisions that impact the whole congregation, which is pretty, and I don't know quite yet if it's an awesome or scary responsibility. I've just started on it, so I'm about to find out. But I know that what it's been leading to, not only this last step, but the previous steps, that I really have to think about what my faith means to me. What kind of role does it play in my life? And how does it really inform all my actions within and outside of the church, actions, interactions with the community? Like I said in one of the recent council meetings, it's still a work in progress. I think I'm learning new things about it every day. And of course, I'm still confused about most of the different faith traditions in this country. Although being a member of GLILA the last several years has helped me a lot with that, to understand not only what our differences are, but much more importantly, what it is that we all have in common, that we care about each other and that we care about our community.
Thank you, Chris. I'm also looking at the time, so I don't think we have a lot of time for discussion, but there was a question from Susan Taylor to Farook. Farook, do you have any open house scheduled at this point? Although I don't know with the pandemic yet if that's still something you can do.
Not really, no. We do not have, at this point in time, we do not have any schedule at all for open house until pandemic is over with, you know. Although we have had private visits from schools, so we can take a small group and take them through the mosque and have a little bit of a discussion as to what our faith is and things like that. So.
Thank you. All right. I think we need to move on to the rest of the program. So Mohammed just left, I think, but if we could have him come back at some point and do the call to prayer, that would be great. Until he comes back, Dawn, would you like to do your piece?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rabbi Dawn Rose. And before, let me first thank all four of the speakers. That was really enlightening and heartfelt and wonderful. But it's true that all of us come from another place. All of us and our families have come here at some age or another. And it's a good thing to stop and just reflect on that, on the journey of our families and our personal journeys to come to this place and time. And after that moment of reflection, which I hope ends with thanksgiving to God, I'll offer a Hebrew prayer.
So Mohammed, did you want to lead us in the call to prayer, and then Dawn can continue?
My name is Mohammed Ashab. I'll be, before I do the recitation of the Azan, I'd like to talk about what it means. The Azan is done in Arabic. It consists of 6 phrases, a repetition of 6 phrases, which means, number 1, the first phrase means Allah is the greatest. Then the next phrase says, I testify that there is no deity worthy of worship but Allah. Then the third phrase is, I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Then followed by hasten to the prayer, followed by hasten to success. And then the last of all, there is no God but Allah. So I'll give the Arabic version in the way it's done. It's done 5 times every day before the prayer. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. That's the end.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. You're coming each time we ask you. It's wonderful. Thank you. Don?
I continue now with the Hebrew blessing. The English translation is here. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who has kept us alive, sustained. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehenu v'higyanu lazman hazeh.
Thank you, Don. Susan, would you read your text, please?
Let mutual love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing that, some have entertained angels without knowing it. Remember those who are in prison, as though you were in prison with them. Those who are being tortured, as though you yourself were being tortured.
Thank you. Farook? You reading from the Quran, a reflection upon Islam and immigration?
Yeah, okay. I'll do that, a brief version of it, and the long version is in the our brochure. The Quran speaks of migration experience of many prophets in Islam, such as Adam, Abraham, Lot, Jonah, Jacob, and Moses. Since Adam, the father of humanity, migrated from heaven to earth, the traditional Islam considers all human beings as immigrants. Migration can take place for many reasons, economic, religious, or for any reason. The Quran speaks of oppressed and weak people on earth to another land of God. He says, "Was not the earth of God spacious enough for you to flee for refuge?" The most interesting and well-known journey of migration in the history of Islam occurred in the early part of Islam. In the city of Mecca, Prophet Mohammed and his followers were persecuted by his opponents for this new religion. The request of migration came from the people of Medina, a city 300 kilometers away, in order to stop hardship for the Prophet and his followers. He sent some of his followers to Medina to start migration. Later on, he personally migrated. At the time, Medina was a multicultural, multi-religious city. It was populated by Arab idol worshippers and members of Jewish tribes. Prophet Muhammad requested that local Muslim families help the immigrants by sharing their houses, businesses, and wealth. As the Muslim population grew, Prophet Muhammad sent tribes to settle in other lands such as Egypt, Syria, Persia, India, and China.
Thank you. And as Farook said, there is an expanded version of that in the program, and if we can make sure that some of you have access to that, we'll post it online. So Niem, do you want to now introduce the Venerable?
Yes, okay. Okay, so the Venerable Mi Lam was ordained to become a Buddhist monk in 1991. And he stayed at Preh in Kosai Temple in Siem Reap province in Cambodia. He furthered his Buddhist religion education at New Delhi, India in 2009 and received a master's degree in Buddhist philosophy in 2011. The Venerable Mi Lam came to United States of America in 2011 to help build Buddhist religion at Triratanaram Temple in North Chelmsford, Mass, and he became the master leader there. He then rebuilt a new temple in Lowell community called the Angkor Monastery. Please help me welcome the Venerable Mi Lam to his presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ram Ram, Assalamu alaikum, and Aslam. My name is Lami. Today I'm going to talk about the topic finding peace through the Buddhist precept. Metta. Metta is the Pali word that means that loving kindness. Loving kindness is a pure heart that we have to purify, we have to practice, that we call meditation. Loving kindness can produce mental and physical effect and influence on other people, not 1 meter, but many kilometers beyond where our heart physically desire. And metta, loving kindness, embrace all beings and animals. It doesn't matter low, high, black and white, it doesn't matter. Loving kindness is not like a political brotherhood and national brotherhood. Political brotherhood is that we love our group, but we start to hate, we start to fight other group. And we love our nation, but we hate and jealous with other nation. Loving kindness is considered or enable one as the great, as the regard as the whole world as one motherland. It's just like the sun set its rays on all directions without any distinction on the earth. Loving kindness presents its sweet blessing equally on pleasant and unpleasant, the rich, the poor, the high, the low, black and white, man, a woman, human being and animal. It doesn't matter because it is pure heart. As the Lord Buddha, he worked for the welfare and the happiness of those who love him as well as those who hate him in one attempt to kill him. But he worked because he no trace of anger or hatred because a pure heart we call loving kindness. The Buddha said that hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love alone it ceases. If we keep fighting, keep hating with each other, we will start anger and fighting again. So if we pure heart, we loving kindness, so a loving kindness, we can live peacefully together. So before we come to the conclusion, let me talk a little bit about the different religion. What is it about the loving kindness? Because loving kindness is not limited to the Buddhism or Islam or Buddhist or Hinduism or Judaism. It doesn't limit to the Buddhism. It covers all because it is a universal love. So now we look about the Christianity. In Luke chapter 23 and verse 34, when Jesus was crucified, tortured by a man, the heart of Jesus is pure and love. And he doesn't react with that because he understands that the man that accused him is acting blindly. It is wrong. What he say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Did Jesus show a loving kindness, a compassion to all the men that abuse him? So in Judaism, the golden rule in Mishnah Torah chapter 14, they say that love your neighbor as yourself. And also a three pillar in Judaism is they say that one is study of Torah, and the second one worshiping other God, and the last one is act of loving kindness. You see the same. It is universal law. This is natural law. And in Hinduism, from the Bhagavad Gita, the golden rule said that if you want to see the brave, look at those who can forgive. If you want to see the heroic, look at those who can love in return for hatred. You see, only love. Love, we can live peacefully. We can build as a, we can live a brother and sister, because we are living, we can taking the food, the same food, and taking the same air. And the last one, let's study about looking about the Islam. Allah inspire is more significant for His love. Allah inspire is more significant for His love than Allah inspire is more significant than His love for His creator. That's why in Quran, Allah compassion and mercy are cited 192 times, as against 17 reference to His wrath and vengeance. Talking about anger, talking about punishment, talking about revenge. He say only 17 times, but talking about love, compassion, He repeated again and again 192 times. You see, only love. That's why in Islam, people spend 5 times a day in order to pray, in order to focus, in order to purify. That is the great point that we have learned from different angle of religion. So let me wrap it up. So loving kindness is just not from Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, or Islam. It is a universal love. It is pure heart. If you have to pure heart, have pure heart, we be free from anger, ill will, animosity. So our heart is pure, we can radiate, we can spread the loving kindness to other people, to other family, to our community, and to the country, to the world as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I think, I'm not seeing Niem right now, but I think Meta is, oh, there you are. Niem, do you want to say a little bit about that in the Lowell Community Health Center? You use the term Meta. Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the Meta Health Center, part of the Lowell Community Health Center, we was looking to provide services that are serving the refugee, the Southeast Asian community here in the Greater Lowell area. And I was looking for a word that would, make it that is welcoming. And then we follow it by, okay, let's use the word meta, be compassionate, be kind, and if anybody who have background into Bali language, then they will understand, whether it's from Southeast Asia or from South Asia, that people will make connection. And that's how we use the name Meta Health Center at the Lowell Community Health Center. And we wanted that tradition of welcoming people of the Western, using the Western modern medical services, as well as understanding philosophy of Southeast Asian as well as Buddhism. And that's how we came up with the name to welcome our refugee. And even now we have, when we think about it, it was the Southeast Asian, but now we have welcomed people from the Congo Republic, the Syrian people, the Afghanis people, the Iraqis people, it was all different refugees that are more recent now, that coming, they still access services with us until they complete their refugee health screening status. Some will continue to stay there ongoing, and some people might example, they're looking for Arabic doctor, medical services provider, then they might, migrate to a different part of health services provider, or even move, some of the Creole speaker from Haiti, instead of staying with us, they move up into Boston, they move up into Maine. So yeah, but we are welcome to all refugees.
Thank you, Niem. Frank, you're still on. So how about reading the Jewish text of our last song, We haven't sung any at all. It's not just the last one, it's the first one too, that we've sung together or listened together, except we've heard, let me just delete that sentence. We heard the wonderful call to prayer, and we heard Don's messages to us, the blessing. And now we're going to end with vine and fig tree, but Frank's going to read the Hebrew text, and then Paul is going to sing it, and we hope that the video works. If not, Paul, you could sing it live.
Oh my gosh.
Frank. Okay, Frank. Okay, all right. Frank disappeared. He's back. Okay.
We got it.
So, lo yisigoi el goi sherev, yo yamodu o mil koma.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I looked up a new trick, so hopefully this will work.
And you've got share sound on, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Lo yisagoi el goi herel, lo yilmadu od milchama. Lo yisagoi el goi herel, lo yilmadu od milchama. Lo yisagoi el goi herel, lo yilmadu od milchama. Lo yisagoi el goi herel, lo yilmadu od milchama. And everyone neath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath their vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. Lo yisagoi el goi herel, lo yilmadu ad milchama. Lo yisagoi el goi herel, lo yilmadu od milchama. Everyone yisagoi el goi herel, shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone yisagoi el goi herel, shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And everyone yisagoi el goi herel, shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone yisagoi el goi herel, shall live in peace and unafraid. And plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. And plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more.
And thank you, Laura. Yes. So this is the part, the official celebration part, and we do have now a cooking demonstration and discussion. So I understand if people need to leave or stay around, the cooking video that Niem has prepared is about 23 minutes, I think. stir-fry clear noodle recipe. And so you're welcome to stay and watch the video. We assume it will work. And then if there's time afterwards, we can maybe have some questions about that. But Lara, do you want to
Sure.
take it away?
And just so you know, I put the recipe into the chat, and that will also be in the program. If you request the program, I will, as I say, get that to you. Send me an email, because otherwise I will forget. So here we go.
We're gonna do a Cambodian clear noodle recipe, and usually for this clear Cambodian noodle recipe, usually when we cook it, we take it to the temple during the Cambodian New Year. And for year 2021, it's gonna be April 14, 15, and 16 for the Cambodian New Year. Usually it's in a Southeast Asian country that celebrate during this time. And right now I'm going to show you the ingredient of the clear noodle, or the some people call it glass noodle. And this is the black, what do you call it? The black fungus mushroom, and this is dry. So here I'm going to show you a little bit. This I bought the pre-sliced it, so it would just be pieces like that. And you would soak this in the water for about 1 hour. And after you soak in it, this is what it would look like. So this is what it would look like. The texture of it, when you taste it, it's almost like what you call it, gelatin. So some people really like that gelatin taste, and some people might not. And if you like it, you can add more. This is the they call lily flower. Okay, and sometimes in Cambodian we call it tui jade, or banana flower. But when you go to the Asian store, this one I'm able to buy at the Cambodian grocery store only. The black fungus mushroom and the lily flower. And so this is already soaked over 1 hour, so it's more layer color. But if you haven't soaked yet, it's dry. This is how it looks like. Right? This is how it looks like. Like some of them is a little bit long, so some people cut it, but I don't cut them. See, like this one is a little bit long, but I don't cut them. Just this is the other ingredient, the bean curd, that's what we call in Cambodian, the bean curd. I'm using about 3 sticks, but it does come in sheet. It comes in pieces. But I like buying this, and sometimes when it doesn't fit in my bowl, I would just break them up. Right now I'm breaking it up there. So it's like that. And then once you soak it, and this is how it looks like this. The clear noodle, depending on from which store you buy the clear noodle, there's these bags that come in like 5 serving. They tell you it says 5 serving on it. And this one, it comes in 8 serving. I like this one. When I use the 5 serving one, I use three of the serving. And then for the other one, this one is just 8 serving. And when I say you can use 2 bunch, this is what I need. I soak for at least 1 hour. Sometimes when you do soak it over too long, when you cook it, it might break up easily, and you don't want it to break up, too much. This is after soaking. This is what it looks like. So about there, I would say about 3 inches there, cut it like that. So just cut it. See how it's long. Just to make when you're serving it, it's easier and it's better mixed. There. Like that. And then I'm gonna put it in this large bowl. The shiitake mushroom, you can soak it overnight. So, now in the main grocery store, you can get dry shiitake mushroom. This one, I bought the one that's already pre-sliced shiitake mushroom. And this is what it looks like when it's dry. So it's look like that. You can always buy fresh mushroom as well. Except I went to the store today. They didn't have any fresh shiitake mushroom. So I end up using the dry mushroom instead. Okay. And this is what it looked like when you actually, once you already soak it overnight. When I say dry shrimp, this is what it looked like. So you can get it at the Cambodian store. This shrimp, what you do, I take about 1/3 of a cup or 1/4 of a cup, because it's used as flavoring, and soak it, but wash it a little bit, and then you can use the water because the flavor does come out from it when you soak it. Wash it first and then soak it, and you can still use the water to be part of the flavoring of your plain noodle recipe. The squid. I actually have to ask the store owner about the squid if they have it. They're in certain sections. So they usually keep behind the cashier counter or close to the cashier counter, and it comes in a bag, and this is how the dry squid look like. Okay. So not all stores have it, but most of the Cambodian stores do have it. That's what it looks like, and then you soak it as well. Wash it a little bit and then soak it, and you can still use the water as well to be part of the flavor. So the string of was that the squid is a little bit stronger, okay? A little bit stronger. And I'm using only one. And this is what it looked like. So there's what you call the bones. You just make sure you take that out, and then you're gonna cut it. Pull that out. You're gonna cut it. Chop it. If you, I'm gonna use a blender, okay, to really make sure the flavor come out. But if you don't have a blender, you can just mint it. When I said the water that I soaked, so I'm gonna use it. So I'm gonna put it in a little bit. In. And I also have the shrimp here. I'm gonna blend it in as well. Some people they use they drain it and dry it, and then use the coffee grinder, just ground it, and then it becomes more like finely grounded, and you can use that as well. But today I'm gonna use the blender, and instead of just mincing the squid and the shrimp, dry shrimp, I'm gonna blend it. This is already blend the squid and the shrimp. It will give more flavors to the stir-fry clear noodle. And this is the bean curd, the pusatay. So it's already soaked, and so now I'm just gonna chop it. Some people chop it straight, even like that. for me, I kind of like it a little bit diagonally chopped it like that. I use about 1 carrot. I culinate it, or you can chop it as well. Okay, so I have this things that I culinate. I just like that. But if you don't have it, you can always just chop it. Just chop it. Usually because we with noodle, just for it to go along with the noodle, you just wanna cut diagonally and then in length about 1 to 2 inch or so, like that, and you can still use that as well. Just like that. Because I'm not using a lot. I'm not using it as vegetable. I'm just using it as some colors for the cooking. So I don't need a lot. I just need a little. So, you see, when I do it, it's much easier. Like that. Chopping, it takes some time, but it can still be done. That's it. That's all I need. I don't need a lot. Just about that much. And then this is my onion. I'm just using only 1 medium onion. Some people that like onion, they might want to use a little bit more. But for me, this one is good enough. And then I have here, it's about 5-6 garlic cloves. You can use at least 4, 5, or a little bit more, 6. 1 head, I have a 1 small head of garlic cloves, so that's what I'm chopping right now. The garlic, prepared it, and I'm putting it in a little. So that's the garlic, and then the spring onion or the scallion. I'm just gonna chop this about 1 inch. You can do, like I said, you can do straight or you can do diagonal. So I'm just going to do it diagonally, chop it. Okay, put that aside. So when you, I'm using about a pound, a little more of a pound of the chicken breast. I'm going to take out the extra fat. So I'm going to cut that out and throw that out. I still want chicken breast to be clean. So any excessive fat on it, I'll just cut them out. And you can always chop it, slide it the way you wanted your chicken. My opinion, like thin, a little bit long, you know, to 1 inch or so. That's what I like doing. So just chop it like that. And you see if it's too thick or if it's too big, you want to cut it in half. I'm just using, because I said 1 inch, just to go along with the clear noodle. Sometimes some people, when they eat it, they use chopstick instead of the regular fork and spoon, and they like to use chopstick just to pick up the food. Okay, so now I'm all done with chopping the chicken. I'm gonna go and actually cook the noodle, the stir fry. But you can always use the meat of choice. If you don't eat meat, you can use tofu, but the tofu you might want to use the extra firm tofu. And when you cook, don't stir too much when you use tofu, or it break down. And yeah, any other meat substitute. A lot of the Cambodian we use was it pork. They would take the pork belly part portion where they usually make bacon, use that part, or sometimes you don't want to spend all this time chopping or anything like that. You can always buy the grounded pork, or if you are more into turkey and in terms of protein and diet, you might just want to go ahead and just use ground turkey or ground chicken. My friend, she likes using ground chicken or turkey. You can always do that, but this one I'm using chicken breast. We cook and simmer it for about 10 minutes. Right now I'm gonna measuring out the spices. I'm gonna put it right in together, so that way it make it easier for me to remember. Okay. I don't have to worry about what did I put in or not put in. The recipe called for like 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar. If you really watch out for your sugar, you might just reduce it. But this one I'm just cooking for regular, so I'm going to use 2 very full teaspoons of sugar. And then for the oyster sauce, I'm going to use 1 teaspoon as well. There's the soy sauce, another teaspoon of fish sauce. I'm going to use half a teaspoon of the black pepper. I'm going to put it right in as well. But if you don't want it too spicy, you might reduce the black pepper as well. And the same thing, half a teaspoon of the chicken base soup bouillon or chicken base soup raw.
The chicken was cooked it for about 10 minutes. I added the cooked shiitake mushroom. I added about 3 cups of water from that soaked squid and shrimp. So I'm using that about 3 cups of water and add it and bring it to a boil. I'm adding the cooked shiitake mushroom in this small pot to the baker pot. The mushroom was simmered for about 30 minutes at low heat. You can cook it even longer, or like close to an hour, but just make sure that your pot is not dry and it's not over bubbling. Cook it at low temperature. And now I'm adding the lily flower, the bean curd, and the black fungus mushroom. So now I'm gonna cook it and simmer it until halfway water left. in this small clear bowl, I still have the black peppers, oyster sauce, soya sauce still sticking to this bowl. So I'm using the liquid from the boiled mushroom to just take all the spices and adding some extra water from the cooked mushroom into the pot.
This one, when I use 1 teaspoon, it's just so that it's not watching up with sodium. But if you like it a little bit more, you can always add the extra soy sauce even after the cooking. Added the onion. The clear noodle, and then simmer a little bit for about 5 minutes so that you actually cook the noodle.
The last ingredient I'm adding is the scallion or the spring onion. I'm adding it just before I turn off the heat.
After that, so you see the halfway down cooked water, but now it's all dry. What happened is the clear noodle soak up all the juices, the sauce. So here is our clear stir fry and noodle, or the glass noodle. This is all done. It is good. So enjoy and then try out the recipe.
So thanks, Niem. Appreciate that a whole lot. We've never had something quite like this at our spring gathering before. And that's one of the advantages of Zoom, I guess. We can do that. We only have a few minutes left. Niem, do you want to make any comments first, or does anybody have any questions? I guess we could go either direction.
I see the question in the chat. What kind of noodle is that?
Glass noodle. They call it glass noodle or clear noodle.
Susan?
Niem, is there a restaurant, an Asian restaurant in the area that might make that dish?
Actually, we have a lot of Cambodian restaurant, and they would make the dish. They have it. There's Assembly Khmer, where Andrew Zimmerman actually came to visit. You know, the TV guy, Andrew Zimmerman. That one is on Lincoln Street, Lincoln and Chelmsford Street. It's called Assembly Khmer, and when you type it up, it was at Assembly Khmer. and it's right on Lincoln Street. Up the top of my head, I couldn't remember what the address is, but what is it, that Irish pub? There's an Irish pub on Chelmsford Street. Yeah, so it's right across from there. Yeah, it's right across from there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Simply Khmer. If you type Simply Khmer, it will come up. Yeah. And then the other one would be like Phnom Penh on Westford Street. Yeah. But when I type up a Cambodian restaurant in Lowell, there's like many restaurants that come up. Yeah. But the popular one is the Simply Khmer or the Phnom Penh one. Yeah.
Any other questions?
So what would it be called if you order in a restaurant?
You can cha mi sua. Cha mi sua.
Say that again.
Beginning
Cha
of
mi sua.
recipe.
Can you spell that?
Cha, C-H-A, me, M-E-E, and then Sur, S-O-U-R.
That was fabulous.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. Simply Khmer at 26 Lincoln Street. Yeah.
That looked like a very interesting meal there.
Yes.
Now, did you eat that all by yourself, or did you have help with that?
Oh, that one, after I cook it, it was like the was it Ali who helped, and so the people that was working that day. So we had some staff that was there because I was at the military growth, and so they all shared.
Okay.
Well, I share it. You know, it's you can feed up to 4 people or 5 people. It's depending on how large the portion is. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
So one reason we had to do the video of it is because we didn't have an hour to wait for this, or we didn't have overnight to soak something or something like that. So we had to kind of condense the stuff. All right. Any other questions or comments?
How can we get the printed recipe?
It's on the back of the program.
Yeah.
And where's the program is going to be emailed to us?
It has been emailed, but I can email
You
it
should have
again.
a copy, Paul. You should already have a copy.
Okay.
It's on the back of the printed program, so that when you get the printed program, it has just the general thing, and it has the text that Farook read, and has a picture of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. It has the Vine and Fig Tree song, and it has the thank yous to everybody and the follow-up projects with the kids, and then a map of the migration of the butterflies. So, and then Farouk's longer article on the back, and then the recipes on the back page. So if you don't have that and you want that, I see, Lara, you said you've given your email. Does
Yes.
everybody? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, go ahead and email me, and I'll be happy to send it to you if you want it.
Thank you.
Sure.
The other thing I would say is, like, if you don't use like the lily flower, the black fungus, or even not using the squid or the shrimp, you could still use that same spices that I list in there. The shiitake mushroom, when I go to the most of the market basket, they have it. Except that day I go, it doesn't have it. All the other day I go, I was not cooking the show, they have it, you know. So you can always try that out, even though you don't use all that full. In the picture, in the recipe, and that last page, you see on the dishes where it has the squid and the shrimp. You know, even if you don't use any of those, you can still make it, because the rest of the recipe, they have it at market basket. You know, I went to the Chelmsford one. The Chelmsford one have everything that's there, but you need it. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Just thank you. Thank you so much. This was
Thank
a
you for
very
coming.
rich and informative, just a beautiful, beautiful program.
Great program.
Thank you. I learned a lot. My heart is full, and I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't quite figured out how to send through Zoom that.
A fragrance.
Yes, yes.
You know what? I